Welcome everyone, I'm Dale, and this is Cinema Historia. A restless hoodlum, a nervous partner, and a new chief of police. This week we're going back to 1931 for an American crime film called Little Caesar, starring Edward G. Robinson, Douglas Fairbanks Jr., and Glenda Farrell. And this is directed by Mervyn LeRoy. So where does our story begin this week? Well, our story begins with small-time criminals Caesar and Rico Bandello, nicknamed Rico, played by Edward G. Robinson, and his friend Joe Massera, played by Douglas Fairbanks Jr. After robbing a gas station, Rico and Joe stop at Verling's Diner at midnight for a plate of spaghetti. Waiting for their meal, Rico reads the headlines in the local newspaper about how the underworld is honoring gang leader Diamond Pete Montana. Thinking Pete is in a big town doing things in a big way, Rico and Joe decide to head east to Chicago. After arriving at Chicago's club Palermo, Rico meets and joins the gang of Sam Vittori, while Joe, after meeting dancer Olga, played by Glenda Farrell, wants to become a dancer. Joe tries to drift away from the gang and its activities, but Rico makes him participate in the robbery of the nightclub where he and Olga works. Despite orders from the underworld overlord Big Boy to all men to avoid bloodshed during robberies, Rico guns down Crime Commissioner Elvin McClure during the robbery, with Joe as a witness. Rico, defending himself against his boss, Sam Vittori, accuses Sam of becoming soft and seizes control of the organization. With the new Sergeant Lieutenant Thomas Flaherty in town, rival boss Little Arnie Lorch wants activities to lay low for a while. With Rico having a Chicago-sized chip on his shoulders, Little Archie unsuccessfully tries to have Rico killed. Nervous with the gangs going on, Little Arnie now hastily departs for Detroit. Leaving a vacant spot, Big Boy gives Rico control of all of Chicago's north side. So, does Rico stir up even more trouble on Chicago's north side? Does Joe get to leave the gang peacefully and become Olga's new dancing partner? Or does the new police sergeant get to polish his badge? Little Caesar was Robinson's breakthrough role and immediately made him a major film star. The film is often listed as one of the first full-fledged gangster films and continues to be well received by critics. Based on the novel Little Caesar by W.R. Burnett, this film received 1 nomination and 2 wins, including Motion Picture winner from the Online Film and Television Association in 2022, and a 2000 winner in the National Film Preservation Board. The opening weekend of the film's release broke the all-time attendance record for Warner Brothers, and both Edward G. Robinson and Douglas Fairbanks Jr. made personal appearances at the New York premiere, and top ticket prices were $2. Ranked number 9 on the American Film Institute's list of the 10 greatest gangster films. What a list to be on, and this one deserves it. And our trivia question this week: was there a real gangster with the same name as our film? Was there a real gangster with the same name as our film? So, a little more history and the answer to our trivia question coming up next. Well, since our film is about being in a big town and doing things in a big way, this week for history, I thought we'd talk about former Canadian leading businessman John A. McDougall. So, born John Angus McDougall in 1908 in Toronto, was a leading Canadian businessman and owner of thoroughbred racehorses. The son of a wealthy investment banker, he was universally known by the nickname Bud. Bud developed Argus Corporation into one of Canada's dominant corporate entities. Beginning his career as a clerk for Dominion Securities at age 18, he quickly worked his way up through the corporate structure, leaving in 1945 to form a partnership with E.P. Taylor in a promotional company, Taylor, McDougall and Company Limited. 10 years later, he was made a director of Argus Corporation, a holding company set up to control his industrial interests. In 1969, McDougall became chairman of Argus, which by then controlled 6 of Canada's leading industry concerns, including Dominion Stores, Massey Ferguson, and Domtar. Bud and his wife owned several thoroughbred racehorses, the most successful being Nijinsky's Secret, winning a total of 14 times, retiring as a stud, and syndicated for $2.4 million. And what car was his personal favorite from his collection? Well, I found that vehicle, and it's the same year as our film. This 1931 Alfa Romeo 6C 1750 Grand Sport from the McDougall collection was donated to the Canadian Automotive Museum in Oshawa, Ontario, Canada in 1995. In the 1920s, Alfa Romeo was considered one of the finest producers of racing vehicles in Europe. Produced in Milan, Italy, this model received a 1750cc 6-cylinder dual overhead cam supercharged engine producing 85 horsepower. Weighing in at 2,024 pounds, this Alfa could reach speeds of 145 kilometers an hour. Producing only small numbers of the 6C between 1929 and 1932, including 257 Grand Sports, they won more than 20 international racing titles and placed in hundreds more. Seen here in the September 1975 issue of Maclean's magazine, journalist Peter Newman wrote that Bud may well be the least known and most admired member of the Canadian business world, a dominant member of Canadians' business elite. Legal business elite, I might add. And the answer to our trivia question this week, was there a real gangster with the same name as our film? Yes. And it was Mafia boss Salvatore Maranzano, or nicknamed Little Caesar, an Italian-American mobster who became the Mafia's boss of all bosses, briefly forming the 5 families in New York in 1931. Incredible. I'd like to give out a big thank you to my new subscribers this week, and won't you please join them and hit like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, everyone. Hope to see you back next week.
There he is, the dirty yellow double crosser. Give it to him, Rico.